All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hey, anyways, we're making some progress finally. Parts came in, got the tank going. So this is the tank at the paint shop. I was going to do this myself, but they were going to do a better job. I really want it to be perfect. Here it is in the paint booth. I came up with some vector artwork to have this thing painted because I had this idea that Triumph came out with this new 660 bike and it had this cool artwork on it. So I looked up some logos. I created that vector artwork. I made some stickers, but the gals down there were like, no, we'll give us the vector artwork and we'll cut the stencil. We'll paint it onto the tank so there's no lines and no raised points on that. It turns out I'm not super as ingenious as I thought, because these guys were racing a bike that had a very similar logo to what I was thinking of. And this is from the Mexican 1000. Doesn't that looks really cool? I wish if I'd have seen that, I'd just said, hey, let's just do this. Anyways, it turns out they also created this bike as a 007 bike. Mine's a little bit different because I didn't want the silver there on the tank because I was going to put tank pads there for your knees. Anyways, here's the vector artwork. They created this stencil to paint it, and there it is. Oh my gosh, it came out so beautiful. Oh, it's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I'm so happy with it. Just came out beautiful. It was really expensive though, guys. $850 to get that done. Oh, all right, and then you'll see. I had no idea. Honestly, you have to believe me on this one. I had no idea that Triumph actually made this tank like this for the 007 bike. I had no idea. And then what they did is they did silver here. And as cool as that looks, and I considered that, even not knowing that that's what they did, because I thought that would be an old school sort of look. I want to be able to put tank pads here. And with the tank pads, having the tank pads on the silver, it would never match up exactly, so it would always look a little funny with the tank pads there. And I just didn't want it to end up looking funny. And with the tank pads there, I just figured, hey, people were saying, oh yeah, but with the brushed aluminum, you don't have to have the tank pads. Well, these tanks are steel, not brushed aluminum. So the brushed aluminum is actually a paint job that they do. Just like, oh, let me go back. So all these covers and all this stuff that are all brushed aluminum that they had on the side covers and all those pieces. It wasn't really this piece I was thinking about, but the side covers, which I don't know where they are, those are all painted to look like brushed aluminum. They're not really brushed aluminum. So you would still have to cover them or they would wear out. So anyways, that's the reason I didn't do the silver there. If you're wondering, I kind of like the whole black look anyways. So that's, and it's beautiful. It's certainly gorgeous. Oh, the next thing, yes, the seat. And this seat right here is, let's see if I can there's a name on this thing somewhere. Oh, here it is. That is the name of this company that makes these seat covers. They're in Canada, and I love the stitch of this seat. It is kind of an old school look, what I was going for. It has kind of a yellow stitching in it. Nice thick material. And there's a little bit of added cushion, so gives you just a tiny bit more cushion than the stock seat. Whatever. It's a non-skid or a gripper seat on top. You can see that material. It's more of a gripper material than just being smooth like that, so it'll help you sit in place on the bike. So two pieces that are completed and ready for the bike. People were asking about this fender. That is a Supermoto fender. I don't remember if it was Exervis or it was UFO or one of those. Polysport maybe. I think this might be Polysport. And actually I bought it just to see if I was like, okay, is that going to look good? And I think it's going to look fantastic. You gain, if you can look from the front, a lot more area for protection from this front tire of spraying stuff up onto you. So I think that's going to help, and it actually has a vented back end, and that will keep that radiator getting air. So I'm liking the front fender. I like it better than the aluminum one. The aluminum one is certainly cool. It's just kind of skinny and stuff gets all over you. So, okay guys, quick update here. We've got a new wiring harness. We got a lot of new parts. There's a box of parts over here. I'm just kind of going through and tallying up what we've got. Got everything but 3 parts. This wiring harness was the big deal. Kind of had to wait for that. And that is because these little buggers right here are cut, well, torn out. And a couple of clips are broken. This is broken. So a couple of wires got broken and cut. Can't have cut wires, so we're going with a complete new wiring harness. And that's my next step. I have to feed it all completely out here. Take it completely apart, disassemble every electronic component, and replace every last one of them. It's really nice. One of the things, they make sure they put a lot of lithium grease in each one of the connectors to make sure that when it goes back together, it is properly sealed. Well, I figured I would take a moment. I figured I'd take a moment to talk about the wiring harness. So I bought a new wiring harness. Let me just show you the old one here. If you can see this. This is the old wiring harness. I've got it out here for reference. Sorry, it's a mess, but it was a very long day yesterday. Actually getting that wiring harness out, it's just amazing. When you think a bike like this has, that's the wiring harness for it. It's, to me, kind of amazing. I had to also replace the brake line here. You can see all the way. That wasn't actually as difficult, but it's pretty interesting. So let's go over the wiring harness really quick. So from the front, this was the one that was broken here. Had a couple of broken wiring looms, so I had to replace it, and I just thought the whole wiring harness would be best. But it actually comes down, there's a bunch of wires stored up and through here. There's a little pocket in the frame. The remaining wires from that harness come through here. They travel from this side, go through the frame. I'll have to show you that. Goes to the other side. This is the main kind of backbone of the wiring harness here, and there's like 5 wires that go through there, another 4 that go through here. There's wires here. None of them are essentially marked. Then there's another part of it that goes through here. I kind of have to show you where all those go on the other side. Wiring harness travels through here, has to go alongside. So down here, it's a big chunk of wiring harness. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah, there you go. Actually, I still have to finish this up because it has to go alongside. If you can see here, there is the fuel injection module, and that has to go alongside that because the air box has to go around it. It's got to come down this side. Very difficult to see, I know. And then these are the parts I haven't, connected yet. This is actually the main fuses. More fuses here. These all attach to the side of the air box. And then the remainder of these come back to the back part of the bike. I had to remove the rear fender, airbox rear fender, because down in here there are components laid out across this little tray that goes underneath the ABS module, and those were difficult to get to as well. There's the ABS module wire attachment is down here under the brake line. You actually have to pull a brake line to get to that module, and you barely have room to get it out. I mean, you've got to wedge it out and wedge the new one in. It was obviously put together prior to the installation of the ABS module. And then down underneath here, if you can see this component here, wires come down behind the swing arm to this, and then back up and around to, I believe, what is the gear shift indicator. And it's got to go around and around about the right way so it doesn't hit the chain. Beyond that, I actually still have, here's the battery box that's got to come out. And then the ECU is here, so all of that has to be attached. That's all behind the air box here. And this is also gets attached, but the air box, I don't even know how you possibly get this out. It looks like it's too big to get out unless you really wedge it out. Maybe once the tire's removed, the rear fender's completely removed, it can come out, but I just ended up moving it back. That takes us to the brake module here, which this brake line I'm pointing to goes to the front brake. And then there's another line that goes back actually to the front brake. This goes to the brake handle. That one was actually, where are we, up here? That brake line was in bad shape, so I replaced that entire brake line. It travels up here, up along here. I have to show you from the other side. You can see going there, back through the frame, and then back up along here. Here's the brake line here, and then back up to the handlebar. Take that, and then it also comes back again. As you can see here, this brake line, so just as long, comes back through, goes through again, and then comes down to these two brake lines. You actually combine all of those brake lines together. It's longer than the one on my Ram 1500. The brake lines are tremendously long. Okay, so then there are other, so you can see right through here, I don't know if you can see that, give me some light. All these wires come through the frame on this side and are connected here. They really had to work out where they're going to put all the wires, because you've got some here, some down by the airbox, and then along here, these are the condensers, yeah. And then these, which go to the fuel tank, one to operate the fuel pump, the other to get the signal back for how full that tank is. For the injectors, there's one here that came across this side, one on the other side. Fantastic. Then we come down here. Here's the other half of the wiring harness right here. And I've got a hell of a lot to still connect, but at least I got the front half of the bike done. And today I'll work on that back half. So it's really a 2-day job. Lord Almighty. It felt like a mistake. It really felt like a mistake to do that, because I was like, that is a tremendous undertaking. If you ever have to have your wiring harness replaced by a new bike, that might be the right thing to do. Other than that, so we've got that to go. Get that back together today. That's probably all I'm going to do today on this bike. And then we've got to work on the rest of it. Just these parts left to go. But, you know, I've got bikes coming more apart than going together. Here's a quick little piece. I painted this little light bracket textured black to match the rest of the bike rather than it being silver. All right, guys. Hey, I am happy to report that the bike behind me, the Triumph, the wiring harness is complete. So let's take a look. Up front here, everything's really hooked up. I'm waiting for the light. I've got the light bucket. Yes. Here's the light bucket. If you look down in here, inside the light bucket, you're going to see those two little bolts. Yes. Those two little bolts are where your second key, what do you call it? It's the sensor for your key fob, and that is mounted in the bottom of the light bucket right about there. So if you're having troubles with your little transponder, you could try putting it under the light bucket there, or back under the seat. Now they give you this little compartment and they say put the key right here. That's not where the transponder is. The transponder is over here under that bucket. Anyways, if you stick it right here, you probably have better luck. The entire thing is complete now. I'm so excited. There's almost nothing I haven't taken off of this bike except for the motor and the swing arm. I think that's it. The entire bike has been pulled apart. I had to pull the airbox out. I had to pull the battery box out. I had to disconnect, I mean, of course, every wire, because I replaced the wiring harness. Actually, the back fender had to come off. The inner fender had to come off. There's things underneath this little segment in here. It's crazy. It was awesome. It was fun in the end to have had done. I wouldn't recommend doing this on purpose again. But it's done, and I'm excited to get this thing back together. What are we waiting for? The light bucket. Then I can put the tank on, and I can put the seat on. Tank is sitting way over there, and seat is just waiting right here. And I've got some parts sitting around for, you know, the old parts I took off, and a couple of little small new parts that go on. There's just a few things that go in the light bucket. That's about it. Oh, look, next project.
Well, actually, just next bike that came in. Working on that now. Anyways, still waiting on those parts. So as soon as they get in, we'll give you another update. All right? Cool. Check it out later. Bye.